GM everyone, GM. I see Jess is here. GM Jess, welcome.
Good morning.
Good to have you. Good to see you again. Thank you for joining us today. Quite a packed session for you. So, I think the group's really excited to have you here. I also see some familiar faces who joined us before, as well as tons of new ones. So welcome everyone. We'll give it another minute or so and then we can get started. And just to confirm, you've the first half of this call, right? You have 30 minutes, you said? Okay,
yeah,
perfect. Great. Yeah, beard's out in full force. Yeah, Jess definitely has a beard to be reckoned with. That was one of the first things we connected on.
It's literally all beards for me on this screen right now.
I love that.
Love to see it.
Oh, awesome. So we have like 30 people in the call, 30 plus. Cool.
Austin, every great beard starts where you're at.
You'll get there. You got there. We'll ask Jess to share his beard tips as well. Cool. Awesome. So yeah, we've 30 plus people here. It's really good to see everyone. I think we can get started as Jess only has the first 30 minutes. So welcome everyone to week 2, call 2 for advisory. Really excited to quickly introduce our guest speaker for today. That was one of my big goals starting advisory, was to make sure that we have kind of these industry professionals, so to speak, joining us and talking to all the founders here about the journey and about some of the stuff they're working on. So today I'm excited to welcome Jess to this call. Jess is the founder / instigator at Seed Club, an accelerator DAO that's been really pushing the future and building of crypto culture and DAOs in general. Jess is also involved with the recently announced Seed Club Ventures, which is a $25 million venture DAO. And today, Jess, we've invited you here to really talk to us about some of the stuff that Seed Club is going on. We also have a lot of founders here who are either starting to fundraise now or going to start fundraising soon. So maybe talking about just fundraising in general, what that journey looks like, how they can prepare. And finally, a lot of interest in building DAOs. So maybe, some of your hottest tips and lessons. And yeah, so maybe before we get into kind of the nitty gritties, we'll start with just give us an intro. Tell us about yourself, your journey into Web3 and how you maybe started with Seed Club in the first place.
Sure. Yeah, I'll keep this short because I feel like, we got 30 builders on here. Questions are probably the best place for us to get into. But I was cruising YouTube and some guys were talking about self-driving cars that would like own themselves and earn revenue and then buy new cars, and it started blowing my mind a little bit. And this is sort of the first introduction to DAOs. There's still looking for that video. It was published in like 2016, and that was just right around the time when the DAO was launching, and so that got me into Ethereum. And also have like a long history of working in social media and seeing the power of internet networks, and then the shittiness when those networks are the rules of those networks were changed. And so in 2017, when tokens started taking off, it was really this fascinating thing for me where you could have ownership in networks, and I didn't know what that was going to look like specifically, but I was infatuated with it and have been working in the crypto space since then. It was a part of one of the first security token issuances where I learned how and when to not spend absurd amounts of money with lawyers and the importance of liquidity. It's a whole line of discovery there, but I sort of meandered my way through the space through the bear market, and in the end of 2020 formed a Telegram chat with 11 folks that were exploring what were social tokens at the time, but really the sort of idea that tokens might represent value that is intangible and hard to value in the internet at the time. So the social capital, cultural capital, community value. We saw networks being more than just technology, but also being sort of the belief systems that people have and the brands and ideas people have. And we just sort of been running at that thesis full force for the last 2.5 years. That's crazy, absolutely insane to say. We've launched as a DAO from day one. So token holders are the way to have membership and participation in C Club. Been lucky enough to bring some capital partners on board, including Union Square Ventures, Placeholder, Blockchain Capital. I mean, it's a really, really long list. You can have a look at the bottom of our website if you want to see those folks. Really, I think been at the forefront of this intersection of culture, community, crypto, at new organizing structures like DAOs, the lessons learned from them, and just earlier this week announced our next big thing, which is the Consumer Crypto Accelerator, which is, I think, our realization that there's a huge gap in the market out there for people trying to get funding for these types of companies or projects, that all our VC partners that we were talking to get really excited about, amazing partners, but just couldn't pull the trigger because the deal sizes weren't large enough or the risk was too great. So we thought there was a structural issue there. We also, I was walking around ETH Denver earlier this year and just seeing, the millionth DEX that's being launched, which, listen, I think we need a ton more infrastructure. We really, truly do. And also to see the investors to just run to those things as safe bets and away from the big opportunity that I see to actually build things people want to be a part of and use and can be, actually using crypto is just insane to me, especially given that today in 2023, if we were to say in 2020 or 2019 that we were going to be where we are at in the bear market of 2023, I would have thought that would be the most optimistic, exciting thing ever. So, I just saw this huge gap and a huge opportunity, and so C Club's stepping in to offer capital to builders at the early stages in that segment. This is sort of our first attempt at that. We've got some, really. It's going to be a really great cohort. It's going to be small, but this is the first of what will be many. And I think our ultimate goal is trying to figure out how do we build a network that can bring resources and support to builders at the earliest stages so that we can actually build a more interesting internet.
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think definitely helpful for just founders to understand maybe what's the difference between, and this is something that's come up in our Telegram group a lot, is just, how do we decide between going the accelerator route where, for Seed Club now you're doing 200K in check sizes and support versus maybe doing an angel round from friends and family or your network, or even doing a VC round. So would love to kind of get your take on that.
Yeah, I think more and more I feel like the word accelerator doesn't capture what I think our vision is here. Because I think the accelerator is sort of born out of an era where we just try to get everybody in one room together for a set period of time. And I think that, if we were trying to do an internet native version of that, it would probably look a little bit different. So I think, we reserve the right to change our mind quite a bit in the next little while. I think you'll see us try to find what is the right structure. I think the advice I give to founders today is, now's the time to build, and having the capital to go build is the hard thing to go do right now. And so find that capital wherever you can so you can get in the market and build, or do the building that allows you to be more appealing to that capital once it starts to come back in. Clearly there's massive slowdown in investment in the space right now. We're seeing that, as I said, on the investment committee at C Club Ventures, we've seen our the urgency and the volume that we're doing deals, drop significantly. I think that just means the bar is kind of higher now for getting funding. And also, traditionally this is just a time where we see like the big wins that come out. So we're still definitely active. It's just like a less capital and ultimately less urgency there. So I think like on the flip side, what C Club has a history of doing is just bringing our network to bear on the teams that we work with. And so if you scroll to the bottom of our website, you'll see the incredible people that are members of, owners in, aligned with C Club, not only the funds but also the people who are building. They're building things that are probably in the stages that you are right now, back in 2019 and 2020, and have come through the last bull cycle, learned a lot of lessons, have a lot of resources and support and insights. And our job is to sort of plug those in effectively. So I think this batch this isn't like come be a part of a program where we're going to teach you how to go Web3 or build a startup. We're really saying, okay, come be a part of this select group of human beings that are building really incredible things. My mental model is I just want to make sure that if I drop somebody into a Telegram chat or into a Zoom call like this, they sit there and go, how the fuck am I here? This is incredible. Like, that's how I want to feel. And And then our job at C Club is just to be very efficient and effective at pulling in resources from our network to help solve the problems that are in front of the teams, on that day or week or month. And I think we have a good history in doing that. But also it's why we're going to keep this batch really small so we can be effective at doing it and be deeply involved in the building. So I think like 200K, we'll see what that number ends up. That's, I think, where we felt comfortable starting off here. In many cases, it'll probably be a part of other capital that comes into these teams as well. We're pretty flexible on that stuff. I think one of the strengths that we've had is just being very, flexible. I mean, we see this gap. Yeah. We just see this huge gap, right? And so I just want to be able to get in there and be useful. And if that means that we do it as an accelerator, great. If that means that we get to be a part of another, then I'm stoked to do that as well.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And like the final question for me before I let kind of the group ask their questions as well is, what are some things? Obviously, this accelerator or this cohort is really focused on consumer products. You've been saying consumer crypto is about to have its moment. So, I love the write-up, by the way, on the website. I told you that as well. But I'd love to know from kind of your perspective, what are some things you're looking for that you might not have seen in the space yet, or, ideas that excite you in the consumer crypto space, as well as the flip side of it is what can founders expect working with Seed Club through this program?
Yeah, so I think like I've been saying that I'm in my smooth brain season right now, and I'm really trying to like not overcomplicate things because I think we can do that. At least, well, I'll speak for myself. I can do that consistently. And so I like to just say that what we're less interested in, like C Club is not a good partner for you if you're building DeFi products. Like there's better people out there for you, even though you could make an argument that a lot of that is consumer focused. And so and then the other sort of contrast I would say is like infrastructure versus things people can use. Again, that's maybe not the most clear delineation there, but in a smooth brain way, if you're building tools for developers, probably not a good fit for C Club. If you're building things that consumers can use, or maybe tools that would allow people to build things for consumers, that's probably the general bucket for us. I think like the biggest take that we've had from day one that is consistent, and especially as we see gas fees just being pumped because of meme coins today, like we think that the reason crypto assets are valuable is because of memes. It's the narratives, it's the digital gold and Bitcoin, it's the world computer, and then decentralized or operating system, that's Ethereum. Clearly, there needs to be utility that supports those. I think otherwise, the longevity of these things, not always. Doge seems to be still rocking and rolling, and I'm a proud Dogecoin holder. But like these things don't have. I think like that's the thing that we're most interested in is founders who see the world that way, right? That there's a narrative and a way of being, or a type of guy, or a cult, or a culture that's being created around the creation of the application, or the platform, the protocol, the community, and then how how the thing that you're building creates utility that kind of supports that meme. I think we wrote, I think Josh, one of our partners, wrote a great piece called the Meme Utility Spectrum that kind of talks about the challenges of this, which is on our website. But I think that's like the lens that we see the world through, and then the step beyond that of like, well, how does that manifest, and how do you do that in a repeatable way? I go, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know. So that's the thing that we're intrigued at pulling on those threads. And I think we've seen some interesting wallets that have applied. We've seen some interesting, gaming networks that have applied, and all of them sort of check that box, and that there's clearly a group of people who would be absolutely infatuated with identifying as being a part of this thing in some way. And then how does that scale? What's next? Like that's, I think, what we get to go figure out together.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. And like one of the things that I'm particularly always resonated with in Web3 specifically is the whole aspect of like how social graphs are shaping culture essentially. And I think, the conversations around memes and the conversations around like united communities play obviously a huge role in that. We're seeing that with like the Pepe rally now, or like Dogecoin or Turbo or any of these, right? It's all essentially the social graph that's making these a success ultimately. So completely, resonate with those points. Obviously, I have a ton more questions, but I'll hand it over to some of the founders in our group. So if you guys have any questions, just feel free to raise your hand. I see the queue here, so I'll keep calling from the queue. Ash, you're first on my queue, so do you have a question to ask?
Hi, Safik. Yes, I do. Hi, Jess. I have 3 quick questions. The first is there a particular type of Web3 project that your DAO is interested in? Because sometimes the DAOs have very specific focus points, like the Nouns DAO is all about increasing awareness about the nouns. And I'm just wondering if there's a specific sector or subject matter that kind of, sets a project apart. And I know you touched on consumer tools, but what else in addition to that? So that's the first one. The
That's it,
one
and
is,
that's what we're interested in. Consumer. I think I addressed that earlier. Yeah,
so
I know people probably want more detail than that, but if you fit
Yeah.
into that bucket, you should apply. We'll know when we see it, unfortunately.
I see. Okay. And what exactly are you looking for in a project founder? Do you consider individual founders projects, or do you prefer teams, where you have a marketing guru who has that sort of speciality, the creative guy
Sure.
who's going to bring this sort of stuff, the dev, yada yada. So just
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, I don't, no preference there. I think founding something is probably done best in a team than an individual. There's a lot of history for that, but we don't have a specific preference there. I think what we're looking for is why you're the best in the world to go do this thing. I think what we've seen over the last little bit of the cycle is that there's a lot of copying and imitating and saying that was a good thing that worked, and so I'm just going to go do that. And really, the things that are most interesting to us are somebody who's been, for their history, their work history, their passion history, whatever purpose, see this thing that they can go build as just being that they're the best in the world to go build. So if you are like, I want to go build something in Web3, here's an idea, I'm going to go execute on it, probably less interesting than I've been infatuated with space for the last 20 years, and I see how a noun style might be the mechanism for me to build a culture of others who like that, and that might be interesting. Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously it's a traditional VC setup, even though it is a DAO. So you would expect a fully fledged sort of 50-page business plan, SWOT analysis, all these, traditional business type things. I can't pitch up with my team and good vibes, right?
If you showed up to our DAO with any of that sort of stuff, we would read the first page and then probably want to have a conversation or not have a conversation. So please, for the love of God, do not create a 50-page business plan. I raised all of our money for Seed Club with a memo and then a bunch of conversations. So I think that's the right structure to do it. These are early stage projects. You have no idea how the world is going to work once you build these things. You need to have an insight. You need to communicate that insight. Yeah, it's definitely more than vibes. Like, there needs to be a business here that we see being big and interesting. But I think any early stage investor who thinks that that expects the thing that gets pitched to ultimately be the thing that exists in the world probably hasn't been doing this job for very long.
Cool. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate the answers.
Thanks for your questions, Ash.
Thanks, Ash, for your questions. Yeah, Emily, I'll hand it to you.
Hello. So I guess I was wondering if you were of the that the reason the NFT market halted was because of a lack of infrastructure and, in essence, a lack of things to do with NFTs. Like, something that I noticed that I thought was really prevalent and kind of interesting was that these NFT projects would come out and then they would do their best to centralize the entirety of their utility instead of working with other companies, other dApps that were doing interesting things, providing utility for these NFT projects that have come into existence. So, is that really a path that you're looking forward? Like, I think that NFTs could have kept rolling if there were more dApps and people were more willing to invest in the rest of the technology. And now we're kind of, starting the cycle again back in shitcoins. And to me, it was super predictable as a result.
Yeah, I mean, I think NFTs are ICOs of this last cycle, and so we should assume that most of them will go to zero, and that something new and interesting will get built on the tech in the future. So I just I don't think there's anything that would have changed that. People were in it just for a number to go up, and that's why people were in ICOs. That's why people are in meme coins today. That's a predictable part of the reality, of building the space where you have connected. A world that is connected, and the ability to speculate on a brand new set of technology super early in its development. It's the first time that's ever really happened in our history. I don't think that utility in the way that it's often talked about is the thing that would have solved that problem. I think since people are buying to speculate in these things, then utility is it's like roadmaps from 2017. It's just like it's horseshit, right? So yeah, I think we need to find I think interesting ways to make NFTs more relevant and real. And I think there's, a lot of interesting experiments out there, whether that is NFTs as like the governance token / meme token of something like Nouns. Obviously, this open edition meta has a lot of interesting things happening. I think I was around a table in Austin with a bunch of big brand marketers. All of them are very interested in, what Starbucks and Nike are doing. I'm less bullish on that, but I think there's probably some insight that comes from it. So yeah, I don't know if that would have solved the challenge, but I do think that having an interesting angle on what might make an NFT more meaningful to an individual than just number go up, I think it's a worthwhile thread to pull on.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it seems like the lowest hanging fruit is something like decentralized user management, which is largely a byproduct of the features that we've built at my company. So, that seems like it could potentially open the doors there. But it just seems like people don't grasp what the technology can do, and that's why we ended up where we are.
Agreed, and stoked that you're going to go change that.
Try.
Yeah, in the cognizance of time, we'll go to maybe I think one more question, Jess. Is that all right?
I'm going to see if I can push this other thing back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. But in the meanwhile, August, do you want to come up with your question?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Jess, for being here. I had a small question about your fund. I wanted to know if you guys were mainly looking for teams with proven track record already, or are you guys also open to new teams?
So C Club DAO and C Club Ventures, two separate organizations, very related. There's sort of a licensing deal between the two, and I fit on both. C Club DAO, which is what the accelerator is, very excited. New teams, early stage teams. We want to be as early as possible. C Club Ventures, we definitely backed new teams. Again, it comes down to we're seeing those check sizes be closer to $500,000, and are generally sort of participating in seed rounds, some pre-seed rounds, but a lot of seed rounds there. And so generally there'll be a little bit more traction or proof there that there's something worth building. But I think the right way to look at C Club Ventures is very interested in the infrastructure that backs DAOs, communities, the future consumer products. And so if you're building that, then those are the types of deals we'd love to have a look at through SCV. That team is in Montenegro right now, hanging out with Vitalik and Ahmad from Stability and Grimes, and I'm sitting here in the cold Pacific Northwest feeling deep FOMO. So
the FOMO, cool. I have big FOMO for Tokyo right now. So many art friends are in Tokyo for Bright Moments. Yeah, that's going to be great. But Brent, I'll hand it to you for your question. And just let me know if you can't push the call and you need to go. We can wrap it up as well.
I can go to 10:15 Pacific, so another 20 minutes.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Yeah. So Brent, do you want to come up with your question next?
Hi, yes, it's Brent. Thanks for taking my question and putting this meeting together. It's really great so far. Also, Pacific Northwester, hailing from Seattle right now, so I feel you on the weather. Last week
it was so nice last week. I know.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, you alluded to this to me a little bit before, but I'm wondering if there's any sort of patterns or typical way that you like to fund projects, whether they have like, you know, working prototype and, you know, actually, you know, something out there that has a decent user base, or if, you know, if it's good vision. I mean, I know people like to make fun of like, you know, this glorified, you know, mock-ups in Figma, but you know, I've seen people get funding with those too. So is there any, you know, sort of, you know, opinions you have?
Well, I mean, the joke is like you always want it to be further along than it is, right? Like, so you want, as a founder, you want to put yourself into the strongest position to be able to get funding, and that is, what's the strongest position? The number's going up and to the right. Plain and simple. Now, that's probably not realistic all the time, and it's definitely there's money available much earlier stage than that. So I think you just need to think through how you de-risk that for somebody who's putting money in, and use whatever strengths and progress you have to do that. So, you know, I think if it's a Figma and an idea, then there's going to be a much greater sort of focus on, you know, your credibility as a founder, what you've done in the past, you know, the alignment between your experience and this thing you're going to build. Like, why do you have this unique insight, and why are you the best person in the world to go build this? I think if you're further along and have traction, that becomes less important. So I think like the big benefit of being in market, or at least being beyond idea phase, is that we as entrepreneurs are just so good at smelling our own farts. I love that phrase. I've been using that way too much, right? We just go, oh, that smells good. That's nice. I can deal with that, right? And like, Emily's having a hard time with that one, but there we go. We did it. And it's like a guaranteed thing. Like, you're not going to see the gaps in your thinking until you actually get it out into the world. And so that's why we're such big fans of, you know, being in market as soon as possible, at least in small groups like this, or in other places where you can actually start to get the insight on how to be more focused. I see a lot of pitches that come through that are clearly the figments of an individual's imagination and have not hit the real world in any way. And it's unfortunate, because I think when that hits the real world in some way, whether that's talking to other advisors, builders, potential customers, you know, putting it out into the world, reality hits really quickly, and that reality check is incredibly powerful to help focus your thinking and effort.
Gotcha. Thanks for the insight.
Thank you, Brad. Anime Orchestra, you're up next on the list.
Yeah, so part of my question was already answered, but do you have any specifics when picking out a project? Like, are there some things you're especially looking for?
I want you to clearly and passionately articulate the vision you have for the world and why you're well suited to go build that vision. If you do that well, that point will come across, and we get to make a decision on whether that's something that we also see or we don't. And I think that's the biggest difference there. If you fail to do that well, then I think it's maybe difficult to get to a place where we can make an easy decision.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Austin?
Hey, good morning. Appreciate you sharing with us, Jess. Two quick questions. First one, is there any, or I guess, is it okay to, or would you advise to apply to both the accelerator and ventures, or I guess, is there anything against that?
No, go for it.
Okay, awesome. And then secondly, I guess, what's your guys' views on whether if like a team has a co-founder yet or not? I'm still actively looking for one fell off, and I know like YC kind of places high emphasis on that. Curious, what's your position on that?
I mean, I think so. There's actually some data that came out that I think pushes back against the YC take on things, or at least. So I think it's muddy, right? So we don't have a stated preference. We've backed solo founders. I think we've seen a higher degree of success with people that have at least a partner with them, because you're sort of doing something that most likely hasn't been done before, and especially, you know, the difference between building like a B2B SaaS company versus building a consumer crypto company is that there's just a lot of rule books that haven't, or playbooks that haven't been written here, and so you're kind of stepping out over the edge and need to kind of have people to bounce ideas off of and be like, am I full of shit here? Am I crazy? And that happens like an intense frequency. So I think ideally, yeah, you have a partner to go through the craziness of building a startup with. Now, I think like finding the wrong fit is probably far more detrimental than being a solo founder. And so I wouldn't try to force that. I think if you have any inkling that the person you're trying to bring on as a founder is not a good fit, that you should really lean into that. And I think what I would look for from a solo founder is just this like absurd belief in them being the perfect person to go build this thing that they want to go build. And I think if you have that, you're going to be able to attract other talented human beings, whether or not they're on the founder level, to go build that with you. If you don't have that, then that's probably the bigger challenge. So I think like just watching through this last cycle, watching people be like, hey, I want to go build in Web3, and a marketplace is a cool thing to go build in Web3. It was just such a waste of talent. Whereas if that person was like, I'm interested in, I don't know, teddy bears, and they wanted to go build a teddy bear marketplace, regardless of the technology, that would probably be a more likely place for them to find success.
Okay. And then appreciate that. And I see like the accelerator has like cohort, like kind of like application period. Does Adventures have anything similar to that, or is it just send in the pitch and then that will get the ball rolling?
Yeah, so Ventures is usually done through like the best ones are coming through referrals into it. I think there's an email you can send in as well, but yeah, we get some really great applicants there. The Seagull Ventures is made up of a bunch of other funds, so Dragonfly, Multicoin, Collab Currency, along with a bunch of angels. And so it's a great place just to get in front of a bunch of eyes if you want to do that. And I think we have I'm actually not even certain if we have an email up on the website, but if we do, that's what you should hit us up through. Otherwise,
I'll send some referrals your way, Jess.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Cheers.
Perfect. Also, Austin, just wanted to chime in on the co-founder thing. Someone in the group actually recommended YC as a co-founder matchmaking platform. I've been using it for about a week, and it's actually like you meet some really interesting folks based on the needs that you're specifically looking at. So just something to like check out. And it's completely free to use as well. So definitely a good tool. Awesome. Houston, I'll hand it to you for your question.
Yeah, thanks. Hey, what's up, Jess? So, we are looking for funding right now and have currently fielded some offers, but their values really didn't align with what we were looking to do. And we felt like they, were ultimately not going in the direction that we wanted to go. How can we apply? Is there a link that you could shoot over to where we could send some info to you guys?
Oh, yes. Look at this. How do we go this far without me dropping links?
I mean, Jess, I can just I'll drop it in the Telegram group for everyone as well. So, and also Houston, I think the email that I sent announcing Jess coming also has some links that Jess sent over yesterday. So that should also be in the email for you to find.
If you Google Seed Club, this is amazing technology. Artificial intelligence will connect you through the pipes, and yeah.
So we're ultimately, we really want to keep everything in the Web3 community. We went through an incubator program, just finished that back in April, and they really encouraged us to apply for YC. One of the leads in the incubator that we were in, she managed some teams for YC for quite a while. But ultimately, I love this community, and I'd like to keep things here if possible.
Houston, are you from Texas?
I'm actually from Tennessee. No affiliation to Texas whatsoever.
This is my Pacific Northwest. I was like, fuck, if you were from Texas with that accent, that would be, and your name's Houston, it would have been incredible. But
yeah, right
Tennessee's
Memphis, Tennessee.
Is it just me or did we lose Jess's audio?
No, that's just that's not you. I like to do stuff. So when we raised capital, it was very much in the bull market, but we had the opportunity to take a lot more money at a lot higher valuation and decided to take less money at a lower valuation to make sure we got the right partners on board. And watching how this last end of the cycle has played out, I'm just so happy that we did that. People there was a lot of money that came in chasing returns into this space over the last year or so that watching how fast they are running away from it today is kind of comical. There are obviously some that are doing cool stuff and sticking around, but I think you want partners who've been through the boom bust bear bull cycles a few times and have steady hands. And I can tell you as a founder, which is what I mostly identify as, having those people in the corner, like every time I've raised money, the market's crashed 50%. That day I've closed, did that twice. And to be able to call up a founder and be like, all right, so like, what does growth look like now that we're deep in this bear market? And to have them say, just survive and we'll be ready for the next bull run is like not something you'll hear from a lot of funds. So it's right to find the right people.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And just Jess, I wanted to quickly, before I go to Skander for his question, there was a question in the chat that I particularly liked. It was, are you seeing a particular preference from VCs and even, from Seed Club specifically for products that are building at the intersection of Web 2 and Web 3 and, catering to essentially more of a mass market? Or are Web 3 funds still focused on exclusively Web 3 focused products?
I think Jared Decker, who's from TCG Crypto, shared something the other day that I think is, let's see if I can find it here, but I thought it was really well said. And it's so I think that this idea of Web 2.5, I think, is actually like a pretty dangerous idea. Ooh, is that too strong? That might be too strong. It's just like, and we've done a bunch of writing on this. We wrote a post called "Crypto Still Wants to Be Seen." Like the reason why. So the question is like, why use crypto? Like, why tokens? Why blockchains? You need to have a good answer for that. And I think in many cases, this idea of liquidity and ownership and distribution that kind of comes through this interoperable networks is the superpower there. And many of the things that you have to do to make it sort of Web 2.5, make it easier for Web 2 folks to join, fails to step into those superpowers. One, it either is trying to abstract away the challenge of user experience in a way that actually makes it very hard to play in the broader ecosystem. And two, people in Web 2 just actually don't know why the heck they should care about like owning tokens, etc. So unless you make that really clear, then it just becomes a really shitty database that costs a lot more to use. And so I think what is very likely is we'll see like either a lot of Web 2 tools just sort of have crypto in the back end and it just not be visible whatsoever. It'll just be a better payment rails, better way of sort of sending value, the better way of sort of building reputation and maybe creating a ton of optionality for the future. Or we'll see people leaning in and really building unique individual experiences around new crypto primitives, right? So I think the in-between land is going to be challenging. We don't believe that that it is an infrastructure issue that gets in the way of building meaningful consumer experiences in Web3. We think it's like a value or like a meaning issue. Like right now, we're seeing incredibly high gas prices. People are obviously willing to go ape in on something that they think is going to give them a ton of money in the future. We think that there's actually a lot more types of demand like that are out there, especially as L2s start to come on board and account abstraction starts to happen, and a lot of those more of that friction starts to disappear. I think our preference is to be building with people who are building clearly things that are uniquely enabled by being on chain or by having tokens or but I'll probably be surprised there as well.
Cool, awesome. Yeah, I think that's a good answer. Slightly different from my thesis building a Noka, but we'll talk about that separately. Skander, I'll hand it to you for your question, and then Guru, I think we'll finish right on time.
All right, thank you, Sadvik. Hi, Jess, and nice to meet you and hear from you. Long-time admirer of Seed Club here. I am Skander. I'm the co-founder of Polyester, and we transform green assets, basically trees, into tokens that generate a yield and carbon offset. And I'm also the creator of Decentralized Impact. It's an experiment of creating a decentralized DAO in the MENA region. I'm originally from Tunisia. That was backed by IFC, World Bank, and other partners. My question to you today is, where do you stand on legal structure and governance? Is there any preference for Seed Club and especially Seed Club Ventures in terms of, do you want to see more DAOs? Are you okay seeing regular C Corps with the intent of maybe decentralizing later?
So I think like our big lesson, and we've worked with 100 projects or even more than that at this point. And when C Club launched in our first batch, there was this world of like crowdfunding and tokens being distributed and airdrops, and the idea that like to be able to distribute ownership effectively across members or users, you probably should start off with that as like the core focus from day one. I think over the last 2 years, we've just seen that not play out in the way that we thought it would. And it shouldn't be super shocking for anybody who's built anything. I think one, it's really hard to go build something, period. And it's very difficult to do that if you have to keep 100 or 1,000 or God forbid 10,000 people happy and involved in that decision process. And so that's one side of things, building things based on consensus versus building things based on intuition and quick decision making, I think is a very different game. And we're just far more likely to see interesting things come out of small teams than consensus-based DAOs. We're seeing some interesting things come out of small teams that are working for DAOs, but that's maybe like a complication or an exception. And then two, there's obviously a lot of legal uncertainty that still exists in the space. And so C Corps seem to be a way of, or more corporate type entities seem to be a way of actually allowing people to come together, feel comfortable, build. So we're happy to participate in everything from a pure token play through to an equity play with a token warrant. I think depending on where you live in the world should probably drive that decision quite a bit. If you're in the US, I think using a corporate structure makes the most sense. I think if you're not, you have a little bit more flexibility. But I think most importantly, we think that small teams are going to go build interesting things, and that decentralizing in the future, distributing ownership in the future is the right way to go for most projects. I think there's some exceptions, and I hope those exceptions grow, because I think that's actually a new and interesting space to play in. But just based on the data we've seen, the projects we've worked with, and our personal lessons, that'd be the recommendation we have. Go build something people want to be a part of first, and then let's find out how we can go and pour gas on that fire by distributing ownership and opening. I mean, the opening thing is maybe a separate conversation from the ownership.
Amazing, thank you. And my last question is, what kind of support? I know Seed Club, but Seed Club Ventures and the consumer program, what kind of support do you provide beside the investment? Is there legal support, intros to other investors, or? Yes,
C Club DAO and C Club Accelerator, same thing. C Club Ventures, venture fund, much more traditional. Yeah. It's a venture DAO, but you're going to get money. You get support from them. At C Club DAO and the consumer accelerator we're running, we feel we're joining as partners in a journey with you, and so our job is to bring you the resources that we have in our network to help you grow. So that is capital, but up until this batch, we didn't ask for capital, right? It was a token swap agreement that we had. And so our job was really to say, yeah, if you need lawyers, you got access to lawyers. If you want intros to other builders, you got access to intros to builders. You got questions around how to go operate a DAO. Well, we have that expertise as well. And of course, we have incredible, 100+ funds in our investor syndicate, and over a dozen that are deep investors and partners with C Club as well. So yeah, we're in this place right now where this is a big swing for us. We didn't raise a big fund. This isn't a place where we have unlimited amounts of capital to come put into here. We saw an opportunity in the market, and we want to step in and do it. And we also have to make that work for everybody involved. And so that's why you get our heartbeats to. We wouldn't do it if we didn't think we had the ability to have a meaningful impact on the outcomes on the teams that we're working with.
Amazing.
Right, there's one
Thank
more
you so much.
And then we'll have. Right? One more?
Awesome, Guru, go for it. Yeah.
What's up, Guru?
Thank you, Satvik. Thank you, Jess. Jess, I'm co-founder of BCube. So we empower crypto traders to win in any market condition by providing an institutional-grade AI-driven platform. So we provide AI infrastructure for people to build their own strategies and optimize them as the market changes. So this is a consumer product which is related to crypto, so more towards the fintech side. So C Club is interested in projects like this, or they're looking purely on the Web3 side?
I think that you'll find better partners out there for what you're building than C Club. I think C Club Ventures happened to be a very, very early investor in stability.ai, and so we are increasingly exploring AI tools and opportunities through C Club Ventures, and that team has the expertise there to, I think, be useful there. I think the DeFi angle go look at Alliance DAO. Those guys are just purpose built for those types of things. I just think you'll probably find a better useful help there.
Thank you so much.
But I think that's a great question, because you can I think the super secret thing here is that I think all of Web3, all of crypto is a consumer product ultimately. And so maybe in the future we get to go play in other stuff, but I think it's helpful for me just to say, like, there are just such great human beings that have just invested the last 2-3 years in figuring out how to go do what you need to go do, and you should probably endeavor to go work with them directly.
Thanks.
All right, I gotta hop or I'm gonna get in trouble.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Josh. If there's any other questions, I'll send them your way. I'll share the links and everything.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time again.
I
Yeah,
think if you're
thank
on the,
you.
if you're on the
Hopefully
fence,
we'll have you again soon.
If you're on the fence, just shoot an application in. At the very least, you'll be in our world. I'm also hosting an AMA on Backdrop right now, which is one of the C Club portfolio projects. I'm that tall guy on Twitter. Let me just drop you a link here. So if you want to hop in, if there's any other questions, you can do it there. And you can also DM Joey if you need an invite, because it's a great place to go be among other builders. It seems like the vibe here. So appreciate it, Sadvik. Lovely to
Awesome.
be here.
Thanks,
Hope you guys
Jess.
have a great weekend.
Yeah.
Bye.
You too. Chat soon. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining this session. I think it was hopefully helpful for everyone. Any thoughts, feedback? Is there anyone in the group that's actively raising right now? You want to do like a show of hands and, some emojis maybe? Okay, cool. So there's a couple of people raising right now, which is cool. Because one of the things I'm trying to do is, actively try to bring a lot more VCs to this group. Because I think it serves as a really good funnel to just understand kind of what the different aspects of fundraising can look like, maybe some areas that you can work on, but also I think it's a great way to actually put your face and name in front of these people, because ultimately, like, those interpersonal relationships tend to matter the most in my experience. So, in the group, if there's any additional questions for Jess, if you guys end up applying as well to the new cohort to Seed Club Ventures, like, definitely just let me know. So I can also just drop Jess a message and say, okay, this person from advisory who was on the call has applied. And I'm going to try to keep bringing more VCs and more kind of angels to this group as well. So, there'll be plenty of opportunities. Are there any questions just around like fundraising or consumer products or anything in general? Because that's a space that like I've also been exploring, especially around consumer products. So always happy to just chat and guide everyone. Also going to have some pitch workshops soon, so you can perfect your pitch decks. But yeah, this was a really fun session. Anyone wants to unmute and has something to share?
What do you think about doing that pitch deck workshop? I think might need some refining.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get that in for next week. I'm talking to a few different VCs to see if they can kind of come in and like just tell us what needs to be in a deck. When are you gonna raise money for Anoka? I don't know. I'm enjoying the bootstrapping process right now, to be honest. Pepe's been good as well, so definitely some extra funds to bootstrap and giving me some runway to hire. But we'll see what I need to raise. I'm sure it'll happen. Skander, were you saying something? Saw you on mute.
Yeah, I said thank you for bringing Jess. It was super interesting. I have something like not related to fundraising, even though I'm doing, but maybe we should add some AI assistant to these calls for the people who were not able to attend, like something to summarize, like AirPlay or anything that would make retranscription of the call.
Yeah, so this call particularly was recorded, so I'm definitely going to be recording like any guest speaker calls, but also for all the previous calls we have, my friend Miriam has put her Fireflies bot in here, so we do actually have transcripts. I've just been a bit too occupied like building, so I haven't had time to like condense all the material, but just know like I'm putting together a website where you'll be able to access transcripts for all the calls. A full directory of like all the members in advisory and everything of that nature, plus some resources as well for VCs you can connect with, accelerators, all that kind of material. So yeah, there'll be plenty of support. I've been a bit lazy and a bit busy to get
No,
it
it's
done.
okay. It was just a suggestion. Thank you so much for all what you do already.
Of course, yeah. Reza, I see you have your hand raised. Do you want to say something?
No, that was for the whose fundraising question. I forgot to put it down.
Okay. Cool.
Thanks for the session today.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I think there's a couple of people in the group who are fundraising, so hopefully, we can get you guys all the right support and connections, to at least just, get some basic guidance. The Telegram handle should be in the email that I sent for this session, but I'll find it and just put it in the chat as well. Mukund, do you have something to share?
Hey, yeah, well, thanks for getting in, Jess. I think some of the questions especially were super interesting. Things that I wanted to ask but were already been asked. So it was good to learn all of that. I mean, this is more logistical in terms of you running the show, right? I mean, if you need help, I think it'll be interesting for you to, roll that out to the people in the group and see where you can get that help from. I'm sure all of us are willing to contribute in whatever little manner we can. It is a collective at the end of the day. So, you don't have to do everything by yourself.
Yeah, no, for sure. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think right now I'm just trying to figure out literally what's needed, how do I want to structure it, but for sure, definitely going to bring some of you all in. And I think it's really kind of everyone. I've been receiving tons of DMs from the group from people who actually want to help out. So yeah, we'll definitely open some opportunities for this group to just become active contributors. And also at some point I want to actually limit the number of people who are entering for now, so we can actually get to know each other a bit closer, foster more interpersonal relationships. I don't want it to turn into just weekly seminars, but really give everyone in the group an opportunity to talk to each other, learn from each other. So we'll switch to a more closed membership type of thing to curate the community, but for now I think it's good the way it's going, and we have a ton of interest, which is great to see. Fiona, I see you have your hand raised. Do you have anything to share?
Hi, my name is Fiona Aboud. I am working on a consumer product, but the phase one of it is not necessarily, I think, of interest to a VC at this point. But I'm really interested in blockchain funding and grants and things like that from blockchains. So any resources or any speakers on that process or which blockchain to choose. No, I mean, I'm very familiar with definitely Ethereum and Tezos and Polygon, but and my project, we did the Ethereum Global Hackathon, and that's where we developed it. Anyway, I'm super appreciative of this group, and thank you so much for including me.
Of course, yeah, thank you for joining us. I saw your post on Twitter earlier today as well, so really appreciate it. And yeah, definitely, I think grants was something that I was doing a lot of research on a few months ago. So there's tons of chains that still offer grants, that offer tons of help around marketing and partnerships and resources. So I'll definitely try to get some folks in here from maybe Polygon, Aptos, and a few other chains I'm connected to see if they can just share some of that experience. Scanner, you have your hand raised still, or do you have anything new to add, or is that just from before?
It's from early on, don't worry. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Houston, I see you raise your hand as well. Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to hit on a point Jess made, is just finding the right fit for your company. Growing up, I really didn't have a lot. I've worked my ass off for everything that I have. And if you would have told me that, we've turned down some of the offers that's come in, I would tell you you're absolutely insane. But, after a lot of long discussion and, a lot of hard thought on it, finding that right partner, it's a lot more about just the money.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's really well said, because I think I've seen a lot of people just jump on the first kind of offer they receive, and actually a lot of times it's probably, like you said, Houston, not the best one for them. So I also like some of the questions today to Jess, which was asking, what kind of value does Seed Club, the DAO, or Seed Club Ventures bring in? Because I think as founders raising, that's also really important for you to understand, is maybe besides the money, what are some of your weak areas where you could use some resources and help, and really finding that kind of right partner fit for that. So yeah, Houston, well said. August, you have your hand raised. Do you have anything to share?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to be sure that my project and idea is a consumer product. So it's actually coming from the passion of gaming and blockchain. And also an idea that I had is about, I was playing God of War, and at my brother's house in Paris, and I live in Dijon. And when I came back to my house, I realized that I had acquired a certain progression in his PS5, and on my device, if I bought the game, I would have lost that progression. And so my idea was basically using blockchain to have savings as NFTs, and that could be very helpful in adventure games and all. So what do you guys think about it, and do you guys think that that is consumer product?
Yeah, I mean, I think like what Jess said, I'll echo that as well, is, you know, ideally everything in Web3 essentially is a consumer product. And it really does come down to like who the product is specifically catering to, right? So for example, in your gaming product, say you're actually selling the infrastructure behind it to game developers to build on top of it, then it's not really, it becomes an enterprise product. But if you're selling the technology directly to the actual gamers, then, you know, you can categorize it as a consumer. So I think it's a matter of just understanding and really defining who your target audience is and who your target customer is. If you can figure that piece out, that'll kind of help you decide if you're going the consumer route, the enterprise route, or like I know my company, we're actually doing both consumer and enterprise side, which is also, you know, a lot of cases where you tend to see that a lot as well.
Yes, I was also thinking about doing the same B2B and B2C. So great. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. Of course. So I know we're at the end of time, but if anyone has anything to add, any comments, feedback, stuff that you want to see more of, definitely feel free to raise your hand. But, you know, just wanted to say thank you again. It's been honestly surreal just how this group has grown from a Twitter post that I made to now, you know, we've over 120 people in the Telegram. We had 50 people on this call today. So really, really excited. I will say if you aren't on the Telegram yet, definitely join in. There's been some really good conversations. Feel free to use this as a place to just ask the silliest questions that come to your mind. It's really a safe space for founders to be themselves. And yeah, if you have any questions for Jess, or if you end up applying or anything, just shoot me a message and I can, you know, tell Jess and make sure he's aware as well. But yeah, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll be sending out another scheduler for next week. So please make sure to fill it out so I know what's the best time for everyone. Thank you and enjoy.